Hello, Fredlings. I am Claude from Chicago. We are here for real people with real creativity in real time. Fredlings, never give up, and I won't on you. And today we are back playing some more Planet Coaster here in Lucky Lakes Park in Planet Coaster. And today we are working on the 60s, 70s, 80s area, and we are doing a little bit of theming for our rides, which is absolutely awesome. And it's going to fit the theme of a little mini theme park. So I was deciding and I was thinking about how do I detail this area? I want a cheap budget ride, something that would fit in sort of this, the era of the, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I was thinking, I don't know. I want to keep this sort of natural, something very low budget. Obviously, we're a budget theme park. And we went very over budget on some of our attractions. So what I decided to come up with was do a mini fantasy land, something like you would see as a Disney World for kids, sort of a kiddie land. Nothing super crazy, nothing super spectacular, but it still looks nice. So what I decided to do was place down the Cherospin, the Tilt-A-Whirl, and the Aeronautics rides, and then go around and give them some detailing with some very not cheap hedges, but with some hedges that would be somewhat defined as cheap. I feel like the theming and I always feel like the little details matter. I say this in a lot of the videos, but what I was going for is, what would you call it? How do I say it? I would say it is defined as natural. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a natural look. So that's one of the steps that I used here, was placing in some rocks from a couple different packs. I usually wouldn't incorporate different rocks here, but the natural look of using these rocks, because obviously we're by a lake, there would obviously be some sort of type of rocks here to break the water so the rides wouldn't get wet. Obviously this is elevated, so this ride probably wouldn't get wet from the lake itself, but you never know. And I wanted to add in some palm trees, some beech trees, some vines, some these little banana trees as well. And coming in with some scavolias, I believe those are called. Dropping them in there to give a little bit of color, because this looks 10 times better with the greenery incorporated in the rocks, as you clearly see from a couple seconds ago. Try to come in here with some ivy and some seaweed. Seaweed looked okay. It just really depended on which angle you came from, and some of these rocks, just because of how they are shaped, you couldn't really add those all in there. But it did turn out really awesome, and I do duplicate that, I believe, later on. I do definitely duplicate. I don't know if it was recorded or not, but I do add those rocks in around the place, and I will have to be incorporating more of those rocks into our hills, by the lake, and anywhere else I think it should need it, sort of like behind this area what I'm building right now. So what am I building right now? That is a really good question. Right now I am building in a food court, because we don't have any food courts on this side of the lake. The last place is right there by the little Baroness. There's a little feeding area, and then there's a feeding area behind the carousel ride. Pretty much that's what I would define it as. It's called Clowns of the Clown, which is like a spinning thing, but that's not the ride. I guess that is technically behind that, but people would mostly know it for the Ferris wheel ride, because it's like the main icon, which would have been built probably the first thing here in the series. Or in this park, because this is a 101-year-old park now. For the anniversary of 2021 would have been the 100-year anniversary of this park. So the one thing that I tried to do there was put these big signs on top of this food area. I think it's really good in theming. Decided against that because, number one, it might have been a little bit too high budget to have those huge signs. Number two is not all the signs actually had little pieces, so I had to go put in some TVs in there. And with that even being said, as you see, there are some signs at the top. I had to use TVs and signs because some of them didn't exist in the game, even though they all are an entity in the game. They just didn't have their own TV, or they didn't have their own sign, or the scaling was off. But some of them didn't have that at all, so I had to figure that out, and sort of every other one has a big sign. And what we could say in terms of who has the big sign and who has the little sign. It is obviously the main sponsors of the park have the large sign. The other sponsors have the little signs. And then under there, I did put little food signs that are on the side, like those little stand-up ones that you would see on like more of your, your waist down. And I know I went really quickly there, but the fantasy section, I put down a little fence on the outside to give it a little bit of color, pop it off. I just used the default colors and then incorporated that in. You might see that in the live section. I cannot remember if I don't think I recorded. So right now we duplicated the lighthouse, which is located off of our pier, and I'm building it the same design because I really enjoyed the design of the pier place, so I just duplicated that over. Considering that this was built the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I feel like the lighthouse would have been a later addition, but the leftover wood from that original pier would have been put over here. So right now, a Disney One TV recommended a lighthouse that wasn't like a tall one. I actually found this a very unique design. It's a low light house. So I just took that image that he did and I pretty much recreated it here in the park. So at the top, I found some clear glass, and the glass in Planet Coaster for most people do. The most time the glass in Planet Coaster is used as this blue, but I decided to go against that, and I will tint this down to a black, just so it blends in. So right now it is kind of difficult because the top of this has to be matching with the lighthouse. Do I change the color? I think I changed the color. No, maybe I don't change the color. I know I should be knowing more of this when I do the voiceover. I recorded this at the beginning of February. But some of the pieces that I found, one of the things that I used was a walking platform. So in the game, there is a how would you call it? There's a how do you call it? It's the barrier. It's the physical barrier that the guests, only staff members can walk over, and guests can't walk over it. But the staff members will only walk over it if they are tired and they're trying to go to the staff room. So that's what it is. So that's the only time they can walk over it. So I decided to use that there because it has this metallic metal look of the iron girders. And then on the inside over here, we grab one of these big floodlights. We grab one of these large floodlights. You can just get in there and you can grab up on it. Obviously, it'd be huge for the people. And then I grab ourselves a Q sequence, and I put it out here. So this is what the lighthouse would look with all the lights were on. And we put it over here on the pier. And I remember Disney saying that it was too low off the ground. So I decided to raise it up. Probably about a whole meter. And then we're just doing the light sequence here, making sure it runs around. By the way, the top left of the screen, when this video comes out, it'll be near the end of our women's sports fundraiser. So if you do want to contribute, feel free. If you want to feel free to support the fundraiser, you can support in any sort of way by donating funds, even if it's $3.99, $1.99, or a like. It all helps out to the women's fundraiser, and we will be doing a special video once we hit our final goal. Right now, I believe we are over $365. Then we go back around and grab the rocks, and we just decide and copy the charoplane and do the same sort of pattern on the side, but we don't go through with any seaweeds. And we'll see you in the live section. Friendlies, I hope you enjoyed that time lapse here today. And this is probably one of the best areas that we have done in such a long time because we used a lot of details inside of this area. And this is sort of the last addition for the 60s, 70s, and 80s area, except for our coaster, which we're going to be building on the next episode, which you can kind of see in the background over there. But over here, we have some super simple rides. We have our stairs, the charoplane ride over here where you can come on up and get on these rides. Not very popular, these rides, unfortunately. And the reason for that is there's just so much entertainment around this area. But it's a perfect view when you're walking down this long hallway. And you could see the Chairplanes from all the way back from Habibi's Wheel and Habibi's Ice Cream, which we're going to try to run over there real quick like this. You can see it right there perfectly going. And obviously when it lifts up, you can see that as well. So I'm very happy that this perfectly fit in. And we did a lot of details in terms of beach trees, rocks. I usually never use rocks for details, but I really am happy how that turned out. Next to that, we have ourselves the classic ride here, the Tilt-A-Whirl with a witch on it, which I believe we called it a special name. Oh, no, we didn't. We just kept it Hyperspin. But that's a Tilt-A-Whirl ride right over there. This is supposed to be the budget area. Apparently, this somehow became off-sync, these jesters. But these jesters are supposed to be in sync so that when guests come by, it's the little animatronic for this area. This is the fantasy area, if you're curious. And then right next to that, we have ourselves the spinning hot air balloons, the aeronauts, right next to it. So you just get in this line, which is a instant queue. These guys need umbrellas. We'll add some umbrellas for them. Wolo will add some umbrellas. And that is the time lapse itself completed in the first person. But the one thing I do want to show you is I'm going to have to come out is we added in this beautiful lighthouse over here, which is going to have eventually a way for guests to get on. We're probably going to have to use some sort of the transportation ride, and it's also home for our fireworks show. And I relocated Disney's fireworks light beams to be a part of this lighthouse. But at nighttime, I want to show you that. So let's go to nighttime. It does turn on, and it does rotate around, giving a nice lighthouse effect here inside of the park. It's such a small detail, but it does also use the same sort of wood we used on this pier. So this lighthouse could also have been built originally inside of the 40s, 50s, but I'm going to say it was an addition added a little bit later to the park once more rides were added in. We're not done with the 70s, 80s, 90s area yet. We still have a lot more to do, or the 60s, 70s, 80s area, sorry, correction on that. But that is that, and then we have our beautiful light show over here, so I do want to show you that, and we will play that video right now. Thank you so much for watching Fredlings, this time-lapse video here. For more time-lapse videos, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to be a Twitch subscriber, a tip donator, a merchandise holder, or bit donator. All the links are located down in the description. And then we'll do our final shot over here. I think this is, this is definitely has to be the thumbnail, right, Liam? Everyone? We'll wait for this light to come back around and give us like that side glow. And remember, a real Fredling makes their own luck.